Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Data Dispatch. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. We're going to be talking about what's happened in the market today, talking about Palantir Technologies. We have some interesting things happening with the broader market, big pieces of macroeconomic data that's coming out tomorrow, and Elon Musk that was just appointed a position in the future administration. Now, the market cooling off. This is not necessarily a bad thing. Palantir cooling off here, especially with the rally that we've seen in Palantir, in the broader market, looking at things like Tesla, even some of the big tech stocks, having a little bit of a breather is important, especially if Palantir wants to try to establish any type of consolidation, because right now what we're seeing, of course, when Palantir does take off, hey, we're going to see a lot of those articles that are going to be released talking about its valuation. Of course, this is a concern that kind of sits in the back of our minds, right? However, that's completely disconnected from this growth stock right now. It's just going to be a matter of time of when does the market actually care about its valuation, and right now it doesn't. So we're going to be breaking that down. If you're a new or returning viewer, hit that like button. We're almost on the way to 18,000 subscribers. Holy Toledo. Thank you guys so much for watching. Of course, not a financial advisor. I'm collecting all the data and dispatching it to you. But if we pop it up here, Palantir comes down about 1% today in the after hours, not even, basically consolidates on the day. So even with a breather in the market, this is not necessarily a bad thing at all. I think it's actually a good thing to see Palantir just have a little bit of a cool off here, hit the brakes for a second. But at that 59.85, we see Palantir doing incredibly well, looking at trading volume. I mean, not a ton to talk about here on a technical basis, just due to the fact that volume came down a little bit at about 59 million. We have volume that might return back to kind of the mid 50s. With that being said, where's Palantir going to start to consolidate, and will it be able to consolidate at these high levels? I think that will be incredibly important going forward. Looking at options here, a lot of call activity, a lot of put activity, lots of volatility overall across the board. Now let's talk about some of the articles that have came out today. One big thing though that we see here on X is we do have a big institution purchase even at these prices. Rumline Advisors here, their $122 billion fund, they actually increased their Palantir holding by 48.2%, or that correlates to 1.3 million shares to a total of 4 million shares. Now, a little bit about this history, and this comes from Mike Longterm here. The fund actually started Palantir with only 10,000 shares, and it has consistently accumulated Palantirs almost every single quarter. Important to track medium to larger funds where they start a position. This fund was big holding actually during 2021 when Palantir was at about that 45. We saw the sell-off and DCA'd the whole time. This does show you the power of dollar cost averaging, and especially when stocks do come down, getting in at better buying points. And that's what this fund is doing right here. And now even adding shares at all-time highs. So what type of anticipations do they have for Palantir going on in the future? And that leads into this question right here. How high is too high for Palantir? Of course, none of us know. A few weeks ago on this channel, we were talking about asking you guys in the comments, will Palantir hit $50 by 2024, by the end of it? That was a big expectation. That was also people saying, hey, you're being way too unrealistic. No way Palantir is going to hit that. There's going to be a large sell-off. Palantir's at $60 right now. It's $10 past that point. So the question here, how high is too high for Palantir? I don't potentially think there is a limit right now. And the reason being is because it's already way past its price to sales, way past its price to earnings compared to the other industrial sector kind of averages in the SaaS industry. So Palantir is kind of wherever the market's going to put it. What's the price going to be for Palantir? I mean, right now, yes, it's priced for, of course, price for perfection. But you're going to see Palantir's Mount Everest of valuations. You're going to see that across the board. Everybody's going to be talking about its valuation. We know that. The question is just going to be, when's it going to catch up to it? When are we going to see kind of a profit-taking cascade? Nobody knows. I think there will be a time, just because everything does balance out typically in the end. Palantir, though, right now is trading at a very high momentum. There's a lot of steam pushing behind Palantir, and the gas is showing no signs of running out, especially with the AI boom. We're seeing the AI momentum that is continuing to soar with the market capitalization that's expected to come into Palantir. You have AIP, of course, aiding U.S. commercial growth. We're also seeing some very, very big governmental contracts, especially with that intent for a contract to be announced in January worth up to $1 billion from the U.S. Navy. So Palantir is doing very well on the governmental side of things and on the commercial side of things. We know AIP is doing good. These are all things that we know. We know Palantir. We've been tracking it quarter by quarter. All these articles talking about cash flow, valuation is stretched. We know. But however, Palantir, quarter three report, talking about quarter four guidance right here. Typically, price way above than what Eddie Peer is trading. One reason, I think, though, is because of this. Buying Palantir stock, not just for Palantir, but for Alex Karp. This is an incredibly intelligent CEO and person that's running this company. I think I would say that number one. I believe a lot of people would agree that just listening to how he forms his sentences, how he basically reacts to criticism, and how he takes initiative to really kind of deliver what the expectations are for Palantir in its future. Alex Karp, for the reason, is kind of an industrial revolutionizer in this AI sector. So a lot of people are investing, I think, just for Alex Karp on top of what Palantir actually stands for. And this is kind of what this article talking about. When you hear him talk, say, holy moly, I've never seen someone that smart. Da-da-da-da-da. Great leader, big company right now, lots of steam behind it. Going into this administration, things are looking good for Palantir, especially being so heavily involved into the defense sector. It's doing better than Lockheed Martin right now in terms of its market capitalization. You're going to see here, people talking about Palantir. Like I said, not a ton of action today, consolidating on the day, looking fairly well. Now, what happened to the market? You see the Dow Jones falls about 350 points here, retreating from record, as we talked about the post-election rally, kind of taking a little bit of a breather. Not a bad thing, because considering the market had its best week in the whole year last week, we see key components right here talking about that. One of the big things that a lot of people are thinking are going to benefit from a Republican administration that'll start next year are small cap stocks. A lot of people are looking at the Russell 2000. You can look at that index, IWM, ticker symbol, talking about small caps with a reduction of those federal interest rates. Of course, that will allow these smaller cap stocks to have cheaper access to money, easier borrowing powers, which will allow them more of an opportunistic, kind of potential to build upon themselves, invest more into their future endeavors and what these businesses are trying to do. They just have more access to capital, which can be bullish for their business. You also have here, of course, Tesla flying up over 31%, seeing a little bit of cool off today. Talking about stocks, we have gotten too far ahead of themselves. We'll see what happens if we see a little bit of a cool off going into the next few days, depending on what's going to be happening this week. What the market is looking at, market participants here, they're turning their attention to the consumer and the producer price index reading scheduled for later in the week. Now, the CPI data is a pretty big indicator that the Fed uses as a big gauge, the market uses as a gauge, really looking at one of the bigger indicators of what inflation is doing coming after the Federal Reserve last week announced another interest rate cut. So this would be a large expectation and will be, a lot of people uncertain what's inflation going to look like. We've seen a lot of resiliency into the economy, and I think that is going to continue. Inflation is expected to actually be just a little slightly warmer than it was last quarter, but still at that target rate, about that 2 to 3%. Elon Musk here, it is official, we've seen about this, talking about a new Department of Government Efficiency working to slash different types of governmental programs that are maybe due into excess, that are spending too much, not having a big benefit versus their cost in terms of what their actual value is into the Fed here. You got Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, if I'm saying I'm not botching that name. But right here, you announced that Elon Musk, that was going to be, more of the bigger anticipators, will lead the Department of Government Efficiency here, basically saying it will become potentially the Manhattan Project of our time. They're going to provide guidance from outside of the government, and basically what their agency is going to be working on is to create more efficiency, looking at the massive waste and different types of fraud that exists throughout the annual $6.5 trillion of governmental spending, working together to liberate the economy and working to help the American citizens via a smaller government. We'll see how that actually takes place. It looks like that's pretty serious, though, considering that these two have already been nominated. The top picks right here to be advising, to be the top tier kind of advisors for this Department of Government Efficiency. We'll see how that happens, what big changes they'll make, and how that really is going to benefit just everyday citizens like you and I. What are your opinions on all this? What are your opinions on Palantir? Lots of breakdown here. A little bit of a cool off. Not a ton of crazy exciting things today, but that's not a bad thing considering how much of a rally we saw, especially last week. I guess, what are your predictions for inflation tomorrow? And what's your predictions for the rest of the week regarding Palantir? Do you think we're going to see consolidation, continue of accumulation? Do you think we're going to see more buying pressure or a little bit of a cool off? Only time will tell. Peace out. Take care. Thank you guys for sticking to the end. Have a wonderful night.